Anybody want to say what it was about this particular top? Oh, okay. Now hold on a second. Why isn't it? Hold on. My thing isn't moving forward. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Hey.
Yay. All righty. About this particular topic that appealed to you. Is anybody willing to share that?
I will.
Thank you.
Reinventing yourself at a later age. That's what really caught me, because I had to and have to. I'm still at that stage, but reinventing myself at 59. So yeah, I get it. That's what the word reinvented is, the one that got me.
Yeah, they got you. Yeah. Yeah, this is the slide I meant to be on. Okay, good. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Very good.
I feel the same way. Jane up at the top Jane. I caught hold of your title, The Stories You Tell Yourself, but reinventing, which I think I'll get your book too. Reinventing yourself is what I'm all about right now, since I am retired after 43 years of teaching. And age 70, I'm planning on reinventing a whole new life for myself. And I'm excited about it. What a wonderful opportunity now that I'm retired. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, great. Good. And for any of you who do want my book, you can get it from Amazon, but if you get it from me, I'll also include this nifty little bookmark. So, and a signed copy. And it's less expensive than getting the paperback from Amazon. Not less expensive than the ebook, but less expensive than the paperback. So if you want, fine. And if not, fine. I just want to, as Kate mentioned, I'm really excited about helping people reinvent themselves, because and hopefully to help you through some of the struggles that I had in an easier way. So yeah, okay. Susan or Jen, you have anything to add, or are you ready to move on? It's okay.
I'll go. I've done a lot of reinventing over the years. Everybody knows that the Women's Resource Center is all about serving women through life transitions. And I've had a number of my own, still contemplating the next one. And spent a lot of time in Barnes and Noble self-help section. So I think anytime you're looking at becoming more self-aware, making life changes, we have to get really honest with ourselves and peel away those stories that we tell ourselves. So that's what was appealing to me.
Right. Yeah. So I would assume that, I was assuming it was mostly the stories. It's interesting to hear people said, oh no, reinvention. Okay. All right. So thank you all for having the courage to share. I appreciate it. And all right. So we're going to start off with the stories we tell ourselves, so then we can figure out how to reinvent ourselves. Okay. So generally, I don't know if you've heard of this before, but what we perceive, we believe. Do you know about the story of the blind people with the elephant? Anybody familiar with it? So you see people who can't see, and look what they think it is. So isn't that true, that we think we know what it is that we perceive, and therefore we believe it because we think it's true? But we actually, let me try to move you guys, maybe if I make it smaller. Okay. Okay. But we don't often know the whole story. So has anybody ever had that experience where they thought they knew the whole story, and then they found out another piece of information and it changed what they thought was going on?
Every day.
Every day. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that happens a lot. I can tell you a simple story for me when, because I work on my own, I have a flexible work schedule, but I also do have clients. And so when I was living in Chicago, and my parents were having issues, I have an older sister, and she would always take them to the doctor, and she would tell me that day, or the day before, I'm taking mom or dad to the doctor. And I kept saying, because she was handling their books, which she needed to because she was a bookkeeper, but I wanted to do my part. And I would say, I can do it if you would just have told me before I book some clients. And so my story was, she's my big sister and she's always controlling and she just wants to be in charge of all of this, right? She did not tell me till both my parents had passed away that she did it because that's what our mother wanted. And she didn't want to hurt my feelings by telling me that.
Oh.
Isn't that a whole different perspective from thinking my sister's just controlling and won't let me help to, oh, my sister was protecting me and didn't want me hurt. Isn't that a whole different story?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what we do. We make assumptions and we think we know because people are meaning makers. We like to, that's what we do. And the stories that we want to change, generally they're either a survival story, and generally stories get created before the age of 7. And what I mean by a survival story is like there's people who've come from abused homes or abusive homes, or where the parent was, one or both were alcoholics. And so, as some of you may know, that those often are people that are into a lot of denial because they believe the story to survive that being, beaten meant love, because that's what they were told, or there really isn't alcoholism going on because a lot of alcoholics are in denial, right? Or, that's the kind of story we could have. Or we can have a scarcity story, like if we hear our parents complaining about bills getting paid or not getting paid. Or scarcity could be about love, that if you think there's a hole in your life because there's there isn't a romantic partner, and then and so then you have a scarcity story going on. Or I once worked with somebody who had a PhD, and she had an unworthiness story going on because when she was 5 or 6, she was sweeping the kitchen floor and her dad said to her, "Can't you do anything right?" And here she was, a very successful woman who kept pushing and pushing and pushing herself. And and we'll talk about this, you'll see where this comes into play. She had an unworthiness story going on, and that influenced her whole life. So here is a great little poem about the cookie thief by Valerie Cox that illustrates this really well. A woman was waiting in an airport one night with several long hours before her flight. She hunted for a book in the airport shops, bought a bag of cookies, and found a place to drop. She was engrossed in her book, but happened to see that the man sitting beside her, as bold as could be, grabbed a cookie or two from the bag in between, which she tried to ignore to avoid a scene. So she munched the cookies and watched the clock as the gutsy cookie thief diminished her stock. She was getting more irritated as the minutes ticked by, thinking, if I wasn't so nice, I would blacken his eye. With each cookie she took, he took one too. When only one was left, she wondered what he would do. With a smile on his face and a nervous laugh, he took the last cookie and broke it in half. He offered her half as he ate the other. She snatched it from him and thought, oh, brother, this guy has some nerve. Pardon?
Nothing. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. This guy has some nerve and he's also rude. Why, he didn't even show any gratitude. She had never known when she'd been so galled, and sighed with relief when her flight was called. She gathered her belongings and headed to the gate, refusing to look back at the thieving ingrate. She boarded the plane and sank in her seat. Then she sought her book, which was almost complete. As she reached in her baggage, she gasped with surprise. There was her bag of cookies in front of her eyes. If mine are here, she moaned in despair. The others were his, and he tried to share. Too late to apologize, she realized with grief that she was the rude one, the ingrate, the thief. So how many times in our lives have we absolutely known that something was a certain way, only to discover that it wasn't? Just like the story I told with my sister. So how does all this happen? And I apologize, I've minimized you guys. So I'm going to ask you to talk rather than put it in the chat, because I really can't see you, but my screen seems to work better if I can't see you. Okay, is everybody all right with that? Just checking. Is it okay?
Sounds good.
Okay. Okay, so here's an example. We think an event or a life experience causes our feelings, right? Like, you did that and now I'm so mad, or, you know, I'm so angry, or I'm sad, or conversely, I'm really happy because you did this, you know, or whatever we experience. But what comes between life experience and feelings or our emotions? Anybody want to guess?
Our thoughts.
Very good. Yep.
What did you say?
Our thoughts.
Jane, yeah, our thoughts.
Okay.
Right. And thoughts, when they are congruent, they start creating beliefs. So a belief is just thoughts that are congruent, that we thought over and over and over again. Okay. And we have a story behind that. But here's the thing, it's hard to tell, it's a chicken or egg thing, which comes first, because once we have our story, we also have our beliefs and our thoughts that support the story. So each of them creates the other, and it just goes in a circle and gets stronger and stronger. Okay. But who gets to determine our thoughts? Who creates our thoughts?
We do.
We do. Yeah. So I noticed on Zoom that everybody brought their body. And I'm assuming that if your skulls were invisible, we would see your brain. And then we have our minds, which I call the spiritual part of us. Why do I do that? Anybody want to guess?
Because that's where our ego is.
Yeah, that's part of it. You know, we know now, so spiritual has nothing to do with religion. It means non-physical. And it can mean more than that if you believe that. Anyhow, we know, like through brain scans and everything else, we know like the frontal lobe creates executive functioning. That's where we make decisions and we figure things out. And we know in the middle, the amygdala has to do with our emotions. And we know over here has to do with sight. You know, we've been able to tell which part of the brain controls what. And we know that we have a left hemisphere and a right hemisphere. But where is the mind? Yeah. So we tend to often associate the mind with the brain, but guess what? Nobody's ever seen a mind. That's the part of us that thinks thoughts. And this is how it works. Our mind thinks thoughts, and our mind is our programmer. It programs our bio, meaning living, computer. Our brain is just a computer. Granted, it's the smartest and best computer ever created. You know how much the average adult brain weighs? Anyone?
7 pounds.
Okay, we've got 7. Anyone else?
8 pounds.
No, actually it's only 3.5.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
Mm-hmm.
All the things it can do. But here's the thing that's really important to know. Your brain only knows what you give it. It does not care whether it's true or false. Think about the stories again. Do you ever have a dream that while you were dreaming it, it seemed very real? It wasn't, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it felt real. And then our brain tells our body what to feel emotionally and how to act. It's the printout. So our body is actually the printout, if you want to carry through this whole computer analogy. So what is really important about that is to know, okay, my mind programs my brain. My brain doesn't care if it's true or false, but it is going to tell my body what to do. Going back to the dreaming analogy, I'm sure all of you have had the experience of dreaming that you're falling and then your leg kicks out and it wakes you up, right? Yeah. So our brain told our leg to do that, but it wasn't really happening. Just like our stories are not necessarily true, but we act and feel emotionally as if they are. So how does that happen? I started to tell you about original experiences, and our belief and stories are formed generally, like I said, before the age of 7, but we can have a traumatic event that creates it later on. And I say traumatic because it has to be something very emotional. Sometimes it's a very good emotional though too, but often it's our traumatic ones. And I'm just assuming most of you are here because you want to change those stories that have been holding you back and holding you hostage. The stories that say, hey, you can do anything you want, like Kamala Harris has talked about that how she was raised. Those stories you want to keep going, right? But the stories that hold us back. What happens once we have these beliefs and stories and thoughts created is we have a confirmation bias, which means that we only take in from the environment those things. This is our belief system or our beliefs and stories, or just as it says, BS. So here we have different perspectives and other thoughts, but we don't funnel that into us. We only funnel in what our confirmation bias supports. So if we have a certain prejudice, we will only look for, things that substantiate that. I'm sure, I don't want to get political, but I'm sure whatever your political beliefs were recently, you only looked for the environment for those things that supported your point of view, right? And I mean, I know I did this. I didn't even want to learn anything else besides what I decided, So,
Yeah.
so this process creates our truth, but what truth really stands for is telling and retelling our understanding of what we think happened. It's telling, retelling our understanding of what we think happened. And over time, it just gets stronger and stronger and stronger because we only accept those things in our environment that confirms it for us. Anybody have any questions on that, or does that make sense?
It makes scary sense.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Who said that?
Jane Welford.
Thank you, Jane. Yeah, it is kind of scary, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if we are the ones who create our stories, guess what we get to do? This is what's so empowering. There are actually steps to rewriting, and as you notice the pun, rewriting your story. Okay, just like I learned a little bit more and changed my story completely about what was happening between me and my sister, right? So how do we do that? And this is taken from Radical Forgiveness by Colin Tipping. If you haven't read any of his works, he has since passed away, but he's done some beautiful works, and you can get a lot of free downloads from the Radical just Google Radical Forgiveness or Colin Tipping. So we have a life experience, and then we tell the story. And as we tell the story, our thoughts and beliefs in the story become stronger and stronger. And then those create the feelings. Remember back to where it said life experience, feelings, but I said there was something that happened in between. It's the story, the thoughts, and the beliefs, but it goes around and around in a circle because we don't know what happened first, right? It's important though not to deny the feelings, because then we're just pushing things down. So we have to feel them as they arise. And so again, the story just keeps getting bigger. So what do we do with this? How do we change it? I mean, sometimes it's about learning new information. Often it isn't. Often there isn't a sister to come along to tell you, hey, that wasn't true, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what we have to do then is collapse the story so that we're collapsing those feelings, thoughts, and beliefs. And we do that by bringing it back to the original incident. So what do I mean by that? It's just going into the facts and not making up any stories or thinking of anything else but presenting the facts. So the fact, you know, let's take the woman who felt unworthy. Okay, the fact of her life experience was she was 5 or 6. She was sweeping out the kitchen. Her father said, "Can't you do anything right?" That's all that happened. The whole thing about her feeling unworthy and undeserving and having to prove herself and continuing to, you know, to keep on going through school and getting all A's, that was all made up in her mind. I mean, in her case, it did push her forward in a lot of ways, but it also, I mean, that's a horrible way to go through life, feeling that you're unworthy, right? So that had nothing to do with her life experience. But she made it be something about her life experience. So that's what we need to do, is just get it right back to just the facts. Then look for, what can we be grateful for about the original incident? So again, we can take this woman. She could look for the gratitude of, well, you know what? It really made me push myself to do well in school. It really helped me to go forward and get my doctorate. Right? She's, you know, she can look for, what can I be grateful about within this life experience? And sometimes it takes many, many years afterwards until you're able to do that, I will admit, you know, to look at something that was traumatic and go, oh, but I can be grateful for this. The sooner we can do this, though, the less we're going to suffer. So let me just say this: suffering does not happen from the life experiences. Suffering happens from staying in the feelings that bring us down. Does that make sense? I'm not saying not to feel those feelings. It's staying in those feelings for, you know, wait for a much longer time than might be necessary. So then you reframe the story, like I did with my sister. I changed the story. And how do I make it a new story that I integrate? Anybody want to guess? What do you do with that? Anybody?
Well, it seems like you already took the first step by addressing or listening to your sister or telling her how you felt. You have to make that step of addressing the point of the misunderstanding. And
I have to tell you, I asked her about that several times through the years. It took about 20 years before she told me the truth.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. She would just kind of like slough it off. Well, we know it's because you're working. And I would say, well, yeah, but I have a flexible schedule. You know, she did not tell me the real reason, because her story was, I would be really way too hurt to find it out. Right? She never, yeah,
wow.
Literally it was 20 years.
And I think that's a point too. It has to be the right time to receive the change, or not only acknowledge, but receive it.
Yeah.
And forward.
But when it's only us who's creating the story, yeah, we have to be ready for it. And we can also change it. And I'm going to show you how that can be done.
Okay.
Anyhow, you integrate it by only telling your new story. So I went back and told you the old story, but now I tell people, my sister loved me so much, she didn't want me to be hurt by something our mother did. Right? There we go. So this is,
Can I?
yeah, sure, Susan, go ahead.
But in holding that secret, she didn't give you the opportunity. I don't even know how to say it. She took away your ability to respond, right?
Yeah. Well,
and so you could only respond to the reality that you knew.
True.
Which likely harmed your relationship with her,
I'll tell you what it actually did, which was really interesting. It confounded me because during these 20 years, which was before when both our parents were living, but having some difficulties but not tremendous difficulties at that time. I moved down to North Carolina from Chicago, where I had lived for 58 years. And my sister was extremely upset about it, not just because we are close, believe it or not, even though I just told you the story, we are close. But also because she said, but now you're not around to help me with mom and dad. And I could not figure out why that was an issue because she never, in my mind, she never let me help. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, it really is.
So I don't know if I had known the truth, but I was like, well, I'm free to leave, even though our parents are getting up there in age, because she doesn't let me help anyhow. I mean, and there were other reasons that I left, that my immediate family left to move down here, but anyhow. So you're right, not knowing that, but it also attributed to how I felt about leaving Chicago. So there's a whole, anyhow, yes, she could have decided I was strong enough to handle the truth,
Is she an older sister or younger?
Which do you think?
Older.
Yep. 6 years older. And there's only the two of us, but we're going to get to something when I'm going to ask you guys to do something. So hold on. So here's the steps. Does everybody need this up anymore or?
Almost, I'm almost through.
Okay.
The original. Frame and integrate. All right, good.
Okay.
Thank you.
So here's, okay, Kate, how many people do we have on right now? Because I can't see it.
Yeah, I can't either.
It looks like 9.
9. We've got 9.
9, great. So can you create, Kate, for us 3 breakout rooms? Well,
Absolutely.
of 3 each. Okay, so now we're going to give you a story. It's a true story about a client. I'm not going to give you so much information that I'm, giving away anything that I shouldn't. But this is what we want to do with rewriting RIGHTING, our stories. We want to change from a victim to a victor. So the vision I see when we're a victim, troubles in me, but a victor is transformation of reality. So here is the story, and what I want you to do in your groups of 3 is I want you to create a victim and a victor story regarding these 2 brothers. So there's brother B and brother C. Brother B and C are adults in their 30s. They went to see their father for Christmas. Brother B received from their dad a gift of a bottle of booze. It wasn't an expensive bottle of booze. It was just a regular bottle of booze. Brother C got a car. It was a used car, but nonetheless, it was a car that was new to him. It wasn't a hand-me-down. It was, the father went out and purchased a used car for brother C. Okay? Those are the facts. Now, in your breakout sessions, I'd like you to create those 2 stories of a victim and victor story for brother B. And if you can't decide who's to go first, the person with the, oh gosh, we have a lot with the same, the person alphabetically closest to A will go first. And if you have the same name, then use your last name. And then the person with the longest hair is going to report back to the group, unless you want to choose people. I just don't want you to spend a lot of time on that. I want you to spend time on creating the stories. Okay? Is everybody clear on the directions?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Kate, can you put them in their rooms, please?
Will do.
Okay, and I was just looking at the time. let me give you, it's 107 to 115. You put all the J's together.
You know what? I let it completely randomize it too.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
Looks like we dropped a couple when we started talking about breakout rooms.
I was wondering about that because you said there were 9. Yeah.
Well, that happened with Working Women's Wednesday as well. As soon as he started talking about that, we dropped about, I would say, probably 15 to 20 people. Which left me scrambling, trying to get people into rooms really fast.
Yeah. I thought it was a great presentation. I stayed in the breakout room. I think you learn more from the breakout rooms, actually. So
I agree. He was a fantastic speaker.
yeah, he was great. I liked it a lot. And I do have more to present, so it's really too bad that they think, but it's
Well, if it holds true to what happened last time, most people start popping back on. They give it a few minutes and then they pop back on.
Okay. I know I wasn't expecting all 24 people to come, but I sure, it's sad when it's so few.
I know. I was really hoping we'd have a few more than this. I was hoping we'd have at least half.
Oh, well, people who are meant to be here are here.
Are here, exactly. Exactly. Well, I'm very tickled that you're going to do a couple more workshops for us. We'll have to schedule a meeting at some point and hammer out some details on that so I don't bug you all the time.
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to. Like I said, I'm able to do that now, like, even once a month. I just don't know if that will be true going forward because I'm launching a whole series of things,
Well, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
No, we're flexible with that and understand, you have obligations other than the Women's Resource Center now.
Yeah. Well, I do get excited about reaching women, to help them literally reinvent themselves. So do you think, well, we've got 4 more minutes. I think for those in the breakout rooms, the time's probably going fast, I hope.
Probably. And I always find that when I'm in the middle of discussing something like that, it does go pretty quickly. And I'm going to confess that I was working on the breakout room, so I didn't get all the details of the scenario that you were giving.
You want me to repeat it?
Well, let me see how much I got. 2 brothers. Brother 1 got a bottle of booze from dad. Brother 2 got a car, although be it a used car. Dad. So did I get the story right?
That's the story. Those are the facts. Yep.
Okay. I guess both of them could see it from completely different perspectives.
Yeah. Well, I just asked them to do it for the one brother because, otherwise it's too long of a, yeah. Okay, just a couple more minutes.
I'll go ahead and let them
Come on,
know
let's
that we'll
start.
be
What?
bringing them back. I'll let them know we'll be bringing them back in about a minute.
Okay, great. All right, you closing it?
I will.
Mhm.
Okay. I think we're all back.
We were sent to our room and we survived.
Here you go. Yeah, it looked like we lost a few people in the process, but anyhow, okay, how was it? Whoop. Let me just get this off. Okay, how was it? Ooh,
We're
did I,
not. Yeah, you're
Trudy is inviting you.
did I screw something up?
You're
There
in-
again.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so I'm just trying to figure out how to get rid of this message now. All right. Just put it over here. All right. So how was that for folks? Let me see if I can see you guys. I really don't like not seeing you. Okay, now I can see you again. Okay.
Where did our people go? Did they? I don't think the other girl, my other two people came back. Because Jane and we were all Jays. Jane.
Yeah, I
think
know, and it
right now.
happened randomly.
Jane
I
and
don't-
Jane. Yeah,
Yeah, you're in the main room.
Okay.
Okay.
They came back and they left again, so I'm going to close them out of their room again.
Okay.
Kick them back out.
We were in the
Technology is so much fun. Anyhow, were you guys able to do that? I don't want to take a. What's that? Okay. So were you guys able to tell a victim and a victor story for Brother B?
We've got it.
Okay.
Go ahead, Jane.
Yeah, Jane, what did you discover?
Oh, you can see me. We really looked deeply at the story. Do you hear an echo?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. But we decided B and C were the victor. We decided the wise father knew what each one wanted. And that C needed a car for transportation just to get to his job or whatever. And B liked booze, and the father knew it.
Collected
Okay.
it. He was a collector, we said, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. Anybody else? How was the S group? I guess we had S's and we had J's. How is the other group?
I think we said that it was probably more from the father's perspective that this one son needed the car and the other one really didn't have the need for it, and he just got him something that he would enjoy.
Yeah. So let me tell you what happened. Yeah, so brother B was devastated. He was so upset because his story was dad always prefers brother C. I mean, he was literally sobbing when he left. He was so hurt and upset. And what we've transformed the story into, brother C was kind of a loser, even though he was the older brother, which is interesting because I had assumed he would be the younger brother. But apparently brother C got into difficulties and didn't have his life together, and brother B did. So the dad got brother C. He was enabling him once again, but that was the reason. And he knew brother B was strong enough that he didn't need his help. So it changed for brother B. It changed from a victim story of my dad doesn't love me, he always prefers brother C, to, oh, he knows I'm really strong and I can handle, I can take care of myself and my brother can't. Do you see how that shifted? And it shifted in working through it because he had his stories and he was a victim. I mean, he really felt awful. So, okay. So anyhow, but do you see how we can all create stories and they can all be true or false? We don't know. So it's our perspective. Have you people seen this before? It's perspective. What do you see here?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So depending on which you're focused on, you're going to see faces or a vase. You're not going to see both at the same time, even though it can happen nanoseconds. It depends where you're focusing. So, all right, I think I'm going to have to push you down again so I can get this to move. Oh, why aren't you moving? Hold on. Okay,
Have all the breakout rooms responded?
No, I don't know.
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right, good. Thank you. So here's the really important thing, that human beings, by changing the inner attitudes of their minds, can change the outer aspects of their lives. And the belief cycle is so important in doing this because the amount of belief that we have for ourselves determines our potential. Our potential determines how much action we will take in our lives, and that determines our results. And then the interesting thing is then our results determine our beliefs, and around it goes. So the power to change is really in our own minds. It might be, this is how we get the power to that computer. It's our minds, our spirit, if you will, whether, and spirit comes from the word, and inspiration actually comes from the word spirit. So that's our power. And as we talked about, we have the ability to change our thoughts, beliefs, and stories. So this is the schematic for how you do that. All the thoughts, beliefs, and stories, remember, they go around and around. It's hard to tell. It's a chicken or egg thing. So we have life experiences and events, which creates our thoughts, beliefs, stories, or the other way around, or anyway, and that determines our feelings. But here's the key. We get to determine if we change this, our feelings are going to change. Either we will just have a knee-jerk reaction, and reactions are reacting the same way that we always have acted. That's what a reaction is. And what they say, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So when we know that it's up to us to change our thoughts, beliefs, story, we can then respond. We can have responses instead. And when we have responses, we are being responsible for what we are feeling, thinking, believing. And that changes our actions, and that changes our life results. So how do we do that? How do we change our mind? you might have heard of positive affirmations before. It is a proven tool. It actually works. It's scientific. It's not just woo-woo stuff anymore. There is a most effective formula for doing it. You attach it to the I, because there's a law in psychology that whatever you attach to the I am, you eventually become. You state what you want positively. So instead of I won't get sick, I stay healthy, or I have a strong immune system. You state what you want, because our brain does not know the difference between positive or negative. It will just give whatever you focus on. You state it in the present tense, and if it's not true yet, you can still add the word yet, or you can say I am in the process of, and then you attempt to be as specific as possible. And the reason I say attempt, because some things it's hard to be specific about, like if it's an emotion, like I am, however, even with emotions, like I am feeling joyful is more specific than I am feeling better. Okay, and that's how we get our results. Anybody need this up for any more length of time? Okay, I'm going to move on. So that's how you create them, and this is how you utilize them. You hand print them, because again, the more senses we get involved in, the more impression it makes on our brains. So don't use a computer, and you don't use script, because our handwriting reveals some subconscious thoughts. So for example, if you handwrite and you cross your T's in script with the bar going down, and you say, I'm confident, and the bar is going down, that's actually the opposite of being confident. So you hand print it, state it as briefly as possible so that you can remember it easily. Use no more than 3 at a time, because otherwise it gets too overwhelming. And you want to get your 5 senses involved. So you hand print it, and then when you use your 5 senses, you imagine as if it's already true. You hear somebody talking to you or patting you on the back. You envision, you like when I wanted to get a school social worker job, I would say, you know, I am a school social worker. And I would actually see myself in walking down halls with lockers. And I would hear friends saying, congratulations, you got the job. And I did. And then we use gratitude. So you do this, and then you say, thank you that this is already created. And not trying to be religious here, but Jesus was great at that. He thanked God for things before they ever appeared, because he knew. And then the best time to do it is right before you go to sleep and right upon awakening. And the reason for that is our brains are more susceptible to new programming when we are relaxed. I know I went through this quickly. Does anybody have any questions? I just want to give you practical things in the time we have left. Okay? All right.
Okay.
Okay. So here are some that I think are really nice. It takes courage to move out of our comfort zone and change. So these are just some suggestions. And again, if you like, I achieve my dreams in all areas of my life. If you can't believe that now, you would say, I am in the process of achieving my dreams in all areas of my life. Okay? That changes your story. So we've got the original event, story, belief, and now it's transformed. And how it gets transformed is we also have in our brains a reticular activating system. As we put these new programs in, our brain then, instead of looking for confirmation bias, begins to look for new ideas that support the new concept. And so now we are open to the new belief system or the new story and different perspectives and other thoughts. And this has been proven with brain research. So this is not just, oh, that sounds lovely, you know. And what happens is our trust gets built that the new way of being can occur, because when we think and rewrite our underlying story, it transforms the truth. And then we have trust in that. So we do know literally that when there are brain scans that, yeah, somebody have a question?
Wow.
Yeah, I just find all this so fascinating because I got into this stuff years ago and now science is proving it, you know, so we know that negative thinkers, the brain lights up differently for negative and positive thinkers. And we human beings are geared towards the negative. And that's because that's what we needed to do to survive. So the neurons that will respond and show up brighter, it takes very little negativity to make it like one criticism because that's what helped our species survive. Because let's face it, we don't have claws, we don't have sharp teeth, we don't have a hide, we don't run that fast compared to other animals, but we had a brain power to think. And we had to be on the lookout for that saber-toothed tiger, you know, and how are we going to escape it? What science has proven is we need 5 positive self-talk affirmations to counteract. So like if those of you with kids or grandkids, 5 compliments just to neutralize 1 criticism. So we need to give ourselves those positive affirmations to help ourselves break away from what we are normally geared to. So that's how we reinvent the story. So here's the old way of thinking, or the negative way of thinking. Here's the new truest self wolf. Have you heard about the story about the wolf? Anybody know what I'm talking about? So quickly, there was a young Indian boy who went to the chief of the tribe and said, you know, chief, there's 2 wolves within me, and they're always fighting each other. One has anger and greed and foolish, and you know, yeah, and the other one is full of joy and faith and hope. I never know. I have these dreams and I hear their voices, but I never know which one's going to win. And what do you think the old chief told them? Told the boy, not them. Told the boy.
Isn't it the one that you feed?
Yep.
Yeah.
The one you feed. In other words, where you pay your attention. This is really important. It's not our intention that counts, it's our attention, which is why when you formulate those positive affirmations, you want to put your attention on what you want. So what you don't want is helpful in order to figure out what you do want. And once you know that, though, you want to focus on the positive. That doesn't mean that the negative isn't going to pop up, but now you have something. We cannot not think. So that's a whole other session that I can give you, but that's, you want to, you know, you need something else to go to, and positive affirmations are those go-tos that now have been scientifically proven to rewire those brains from negative to positive. And it's just fascinating to me. They see it. Sometimes you might need a professional coach or mentor to help you do that. So that's just like something to assess your needs with. I do have on my website a free download of the Truest Life Roadmap, which is like a 4-page. The free download is like a 4-page outline of some things you can do to help yourself with reinvention. There's a lot of other things on there, including the book that I mentioned. And again, if you want to get it through me, just let me know. And here's how you can reach me. And I thank you all for your attention. I think we got it in, yep, 1:31. Okay, did it. I'm more than happy to talk to anybody about any questions. Feel free to give me a call or shoot me an email. I really want to be of service and just kind of help you figure out how to reinvent yourself, because I know I did, and I'm so glad I did. So thank you.
Thank you.